name is Joseph Hurst. I live in Ankeny, Iowa, and I'm a part of the PMBA program. I currently work as the Director of Sales at Stony Creek Hotels in Johnston, Iowa, and I chose the Iowa State MBA program because it just made perfect sense. About 2 years ago, I started this wonderful program, and I couldn't imagine not having done it. What has helped the most balance work, life, school, has been the people I'm in class with. It's great to go through questions, problems, study for tests, and it just makes the whole class so much easier. As a working professional thinking about doing an MBA program, I get night classes aren't everybody's dream. I get after a long day of work, you may not want to go do more, but it's worth it. You're going to learn a lot, not just from the professors in the program, but from the other students. They come from all walks of life. They are from different age groups. They're from different companies. They're from all kinds of different backgrounds. They've got all kinds of different stories. And after 2 years, I've made some of the best friends I've ever made, learned the most I've ever learned, and I can't imagine what we're going to do after we're done.
Success in farming is all about precision and efficiency, ensuring every seed, every drop of water, every nutrient and treatment counts. TerraPlex Ag is helping farmers all over Iowa and the Midwest do just that. With precision ag-grown technology and support from TerraPlex, you'll boost your productivity and make timely and informed decisions, all while reducing your costs and increasing your profit. It's time to revolutionize your farming. Harvest the benefits with TerraPlex Ag. Visit TerraPlexAg.com.
Chris Williams, Brent Blum, from the Wild Rose Casino Studio. It's Williams and Blum, presented by Mechdyne, on the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network.
What is up? It is the 24th of March. Williams and Blum. We are presented, as always, by our wonderful friends at the Mechdyne Corporation in Marshalltown. Drove through Marshalltown today on my way back from Milwaukee.
How was it?
It was actually kind of nice. I needed a 5-hour defrag. I don't mind driving by myself.
I actually really enjoy it because I can actually throw on a podcast or a book. Because I'm
a big audiobook guy.
You are?
Huge audio. No, I am.
Yeah.
I do the podcast, but it's like I don't do a lot of sports podcasts because that's what I do for a living.
I get that.
So it's like I do my racing, I do my sometimes like business pods, like that type of stuff. But yeah, like it's I've gotten really into the audiobooks. So anyways, didn't expect to lead with that today.
Nothing else going on.
Pour yourself a glass of Cody Road for this episode. Actually, I'm not going to because I've been in Wisconsin. I did bring you back some Spotted Cow.
Thank you.
We are presented, as always, by our friends at Ames Lager.
Of course.
In West O, but they appreciate good beer.
A good beer's a good beer. Ames Lager. I had a couple of those last night, to be honest.
I bet you did. I wish I had.
A couple in that second half.
Man, we'll get to that. I don't have a lot on that game because I just feel like it's 24 hours after the fact, and I'm not sure anybody wants us to break that game down. We're gonna talk big picture.
Yeah, I mean,
here on today's show.
Honestly, C-Dub, if you would have told me before the game that Ole Miss would have 8 turnovers and go 11 of 19 from 3, I'd be like, uh-oh.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and Milan's 2 of 12.
Right. I mean, I don't want to oversimplify the game, but that was a game with Iowa State in its current configuration could not afford for Mississippi, who is not a good three-point shooting team, to go 11 of 19. It was their second best percentage of the year shooting the three. I mean, if you go through their game logs in the SEC, it's a lot like 7 of 28s, 8 of 31s.
Yeah, and I still had hope at halftime because their first half was a lot like their game against North Carolina. Because they did that against North Carolina, and then they were
cooled
Brick
off.
City. Yeah.
But they were, man, when Dia hit that early one.
It was 13-5.
Yeah, well, that play changed the game because he makes it. I thought Iowa State's first 5 minutes was really good. And then he makes that. He taunts the bench.
Very demonstratively.
Worse than when our guy Nate in Manhattan, TJ's pissed because he taunted the bench right in front of him. He doesn't get teed. And then it was just like an avalanche after that. Like if they call that tee, and again, this was nothing to do with the officiating. It really wasn't. I thought they did a fine job. But if they call that T there, Iowa State gets a couple free throws, and now you're up 10, right? Maybe Ole Miss says, and they lose their composure.
When it was 13-5, Milan had a wide open, like a perfect look, and just couldn't hit the shot. And it is what it is. My big take on that game, and it's like the BYU game in Kansas City too, where it's just like no, it's not a coincidence that these teams keep getting hot. If I could be critical of Iowa State for anything, it's that when Keyshawn has been injured and Taman's been hurt, they haven't switched up the defense. And if you're going to keep playing that defense, it's really damn hard to be down Keyshawn. And Taman was that poor guy was just he limping everywhere, and they couldn't apply the perimeter pressure needed.
I watched the replay this morning. He tweaked it early.
Yeah,
you could see him about the 14-minute mark of the first half. Because he played fine.
He did it right in front of me. I know exactly what you're talking about.
He grabs it. Is like at that point, I'm like, oh no, because he's so tough that you knew, and he only shot it twice, like that. He wasn't healthy, and you're right. Like the numbers again. Anytime I'm disappointed, I go look at the numbers because I like numbers and they don't lie to me. And
they're like unlike people.
Unlike people. Two of Iowa State's worst 3 defensive efficiency games were the BYU game and the Mississippi game. The interesting part here, C-Dub, is the Lipscomb game was the second best. So, but that, again, Iowa State
such an athletic advantage in that game that
and that's where Iowa State couldn't. This was the fear always with this group, and you can go back to January. We started talking about this. When Iowa State played a team that was as athletic as them, it gets really hard to turn them over. Mm-hmm. And before the game, I was like, man, Ole Miss's profile could give Iowa State some problems because they don't turn it over, and they didn't.
I know.
And I give them a lot of credit. Like Ole Miss, I know it's easy to say, oh, Iowa State was terrible, and there was times where Iowa State, was obviously did not play well. It was very disappointing, but they played great. I mean,
both
that was
things can be true.
They had a high-end game, and they make 11 threes, and they didn't turn it over. I thought Beard had them prepared. I'm not
Beard is a hell of a coach.
But the guy got it done.
He's an insufferable human, but he is a great coach.
But they were ready to go, and they were better. They just flat out kicked Iowa State's backside. It's as simple as that. And sometimes that happens.
Yep.
And the hard part is that the season is defined by how you do in that tournament. It absolutely is. You cannot. I'm not going to come on here and say that season was a success. Because when you get all the way up to number 2, exiting the round of 32 that's not what anybody wanted. But at the same time, when it comes down to a game and one team's just way better than you, then it's what it comes down to. Like I don't want to oversimplify it. Mississippi was just better.
Yeah, and I think North Carolina would have beat Iowa State pretty handily too. Honestly, like I just the problem I had and. I thought they would be 1 and done, or 2 and done. Like I kind of thought going into the weekend. And the reason is just I understand the notion of next man in, and you got to build depth and all that stuff. The reality of college basketball in 2025. Is that there just there's none of these programs are developmental anymore. And most of these schools don't have the depth. Some do. Mm-hmm. Most do not to be able to just replace these guys. And this is a bad analogy, but there weren't many bullets left in the chamber. There weren't many options left to try.
There was not. Iowa State could not just instantly upgrade its guard athleticism last
Correct.
night.
And that's why I said in my pregame show with Rob, I thought the key to that game was like, I know what I'm going to get from Kurt. I go, I think I know what I can expect from Lipsy. And that was about what I expected from Lip, because I was really, everybody was excited after the Lipscomb game. And I was kind of like, man, like Taman is not where I was hoping.
Sure.
he would be like, and it's not his fault. Like he's limping around, like he's playing so damn, and he played well against Lipscomb, but that's against an athletic, like NBA Live, like athleticism. Lipscomb is like a 40. Okay, like, and you went from that to a 90, and like I had a friend text me. He's like, "We look so unathletic right now." Well, we are compared to them. Like, that's the reality when you take Keyshawn out, when you have Taman limping around out there. They just ran out of options, and I thought that as much as it sucked, it's probably where Iowa State's season deserved to end, with where this team is at right now.
Yeah, I'll be, because I thought after Friday, I thought Iowa State, really had a chance to beat Mississippi.
Yeah, I thought they had
I
a
really
chance.
did.
Yeah, I'm not.
Now here, so follow me here. I think, where Iowa State really got hung up, and again, you got to a great. I thought Iowa State the first 5 minutes again was great.
Oh, they were great.
Iowa State needed.
Crowd was awesome.
Yep, needed
all
two things.
Yeah.
They needed Jefferson and Momchilovich to really take that game over, and they just didn't. Neither did. I don't blame all those guys. Like, it's going to happen because once
They didn't do a very good job of forcing the ball in early. I didn't think.
I think
They did
that
to
was
Jackson, and then Jackson gets into foul trouble, and then we've seen that a lot.
And then Jefferson got an early one too. I think that's where Iowa State's advantage was particularly with Jefferson and Momchilovich.
Well,
And
they
some
start
good
off
looks
like
for 'em.
6-0 on the glass.
Yeah, so you did what that's what Iowa State needed to do. What it could not allow was Ole Miss to get comfortable, and Ole Miss did. And then once Merle makes 3 out of 3, Chris, he had made 3 threes in a year and a half. Like,
It's unbelievable.
Padula's a good shooter. Like, he got one early, and it's
But
just like,
he
man,
wasn't the guy who killed him, though.
no, it was Merle and Dia, and that's where you're like sometimes like, man, that's tough. But
Dia, by the way, that whole team talks so much shit. Rob Gray saw it too. We were sitting there pregame. Dia comes up and winks at me. I don't know, because I'm the one who put out the tweet about his SEC dominance.
The SEC
I
thing,
don't
yeah.
know if he knew who I was, but he absolutely taunted me before the game. And then after the game, Beard came up and was yelling at the media because some guy on Hassel's show called them a fraud. Like, that team was chippy, man. Like, they were ready to go. They backed it up, man. I'll give them their flowers.
Well, they're 8-9 guys were all really athletic, and they played great. And you're going to run into that.
Dia's a good player.
He's
really good player.
I think they have some guys, and again, Iowa State could not afford to only turn them over 8 times.
When he hit that shot over Heisey, though, it was like, okay. Like,
That one
he's
was
a
a killer.
31%
Yep.
3-point shooter, a step back from 25 feet.
That was a killer. I thought Iowa State was going to have to turn that into, I don't want to say oddly, almost more of a half-court game and really get Jefferson and Jackson the ball and get them in foul trouble, and they just couldn't. And then once Ole Miss got up 10, it's really hard because they had confidence. Iowa State kind of panicked, and honestly, Iowa State's best weapon when you're down by 10 is Jones and Momchilovich, and again, Milan just struggled. And he was great against Lipscomb. He got some open looks, just didn't make them, and I honestly, the better team won last night. I mean, it's as simple as that. Now, is it frustrating as a fan? Absolutely. I think the question would be, and now some are asking, it's like, well, if we're at an athleticism disadvantage, and we can joke about this, but I get it, is why not bring in a Watson or somebody else? And I think the issue is because he's a post, and that.
Yeah, we've discussed this before. Yeah.
If because I think this parlays into the bigger picture conversation. I think the feedback on the season was Iowa State, because of the Gilbert situation, ended up being an athletic guard short. I mean, it was, and that situation unfolded, and Keyshawn couldn't play. And I thought Iowa State would be able to weather it a little bit more. Nate played great again. I don't think it was a Heisey thing. Chris, look at his numbers
really
the last 9 games. He was at 61% from 3 the last 9 games.
That's
So
pretty awesome.
he played great, and I just think
Especially
Iowa State.
for a guy who was almost scared to shoot early,
Yeah, so it's really
that's a really nice improvement.
And he's planning to come back next year, so I'm super excited for him and really all the guys that are coming back. But I just think Iowa State was a athletic guard short, at the end of the day. And so how do you fix that? Well, you get one, right? So that's where it comes. But it comes back then again to what you said earlier. The reason why those SEC teams seem to have more depth is because they can afford more depth. Like, I don't want this to be about NIL, but Iowa State, in because of the injuries,
you got to catch some breaks and stay healthy.
They just didn't have another card to play at that point, and Ole Miss took advantage. And I give them kudos for scouting the heck out of Iowa State and exploiting Iowa State's foot speed issue.
Yeah, they had a great game plan, and the Ole Miss deserved to win the game. Listen, I think that I just wish my hope and my hope is that with time that we can all have nuanced conversations about this year and be like, it can be disappointing and there can still be like reason. Like, I mean, unfortunately, I thought my friend Chris Hassel said it really well. It's like you can be disappointed and the injuries are part of the disappointment. Like the whole thing, like I'm disappointed that we never saw that team from January really be able to make a run.
Totally. Because
once Milan went down, they're so out of sync. They basically had to change the way. I mean, remember the Kansas game? Like they basically have to change everything. He comes back, great. Oh, now Keyshawn's dinged up. Okay.
And they figured it out against Cincinnati for a little bit, but then Taman got hurt.
Right. Like it was just one thing after another. And that's what's so disappointing about it. It's like that team we saw, in that Marquette game and that Auburn game that was up 18 on Auburn. Think about that. Like now they lost, but they were still like, when we all watched that game, like they were really freaking good. And we never got to see that team really, truly try to put it together, which is disappointing.
You touched on something that I think is really, really well said. I think Iowa State, the reason it got to such a great start, Iowa State was 17-2. It's because it had almost the exact same team intact.
Yeah.
What Iowa State ran into, though, is it did not raise the bar. Nobody really elevated enough beyond what they thought you could get. If you look at last year, because I was going to go, what was different than last year, right? Look how last year changed from November, that team that you watched in Orlando, to the end of the year. Look at the growth of a Momcilovic that year, of a Curtis Jones, how much more comfortable Keyshawn Gilbert got, how much more of a player Taman was healthy all year last year. Rob Jones got better. Hassan Ward got better. This year, it just felt like Iowa State was kind of capped.
Yeah.
And they didn't get the jump. Keyshawn had an early jump in the year. He was great in Maui. Then he gets hurt, and he wasn't the same guy. Milan got better, but maybe not good enough. Nate ended up making a really good jump, but it was too late. Taman gets hurt, goes the other way. Jefferson was really good all year. Deshaun never really climbed that ladder to be an instant impact guy. And then, quite honestly, the freshman class didn't do anything. And I think that's where Iowa State going forward has to hit on some of these freshmen, because you cannot compete in this free agency era unless those guys really grow throughout the year. And so I think the feedback is, well, maybe should you have got some of those guys earlier run? I think that's a fair question. I know we worry about the metrics, and I think that's a fair question going forward. Is we had conversations of, we need to win those games by 25 because it helps your KenPom. But I wasn't in practice every day. But clearly Iowa State needed more development from the end of its rotation and didn't get it. And then when you have injuries, then you're left with your analogy is really good. You have a couple cards that you couldn't play. Going forward, Iowa State needs those freshmen to, and I think the freshmen this year are coming in. They're going to be very impactful guys, I hope. But they need to hit on those guys, because you cannot compete with the SEC schools that have those monster budgets, because they can just get a 22-year-old and have him fill a role, where Iowa State needs a Milan Momcilovic as a freshman to play well, or Taman Lipsey as a freshman to play well, like they have. And I think that's a big key for Iowa State going forward. Is you can't just rely on how Iowa State did it this year, because you really maxed out too early.
Well,
essentially,
one of the things that I think we all were wrong about on this year, it's like Andrew Seitis ends up for one reason or another not being that guy. Like it would have been really nice to have that piece the last month.
Absolutely, and that's a question that I don't know all the details there of what happened. But that
But
would
we
have been
thought that would be the case, and we were wrong.
Well, I was wrong. I thought he would be a guy that could have been that, Momcilovic from a year ago who really, started to increase role, play more minutes as the year went on, and he didn't. And that, in my opinion, that was the reason why Iowa State ultimately didn't reach what people's thoughts of this program were. Iowa State 100% started 17-2, but in this era, everybody's going to get better because a lot of them are new teams kind of thrown together in an off season. Everybody else seemed to get better and elevate. Iowa State maxed out and actually probably got worse with injuries. And that was not a recipe that was going to, string together 6 games in a row in March.
Well said. Let's thank some of our great sponsors, starting with our buddy Colin Newell. Got a text message. Like some Farm Bureau Financial Services get together, and he was just, they're all watching the Clones game last night. And I'm like, man, that's a hell of a party right there. Yeah. Thanks to Colin. He insures our homes, our vehicles, all that good stuff. Remember when I had the flood and Colin came over and helped me? Blocks things up and get it out. That's my man right there. Colin Newell, Farm Bureau Financial Services.
Legend.
Also, our buddy Chappie, if you are looking into buying or selling a home coming up in the spring, this is the hot time. This is when people are moving. Remember our friend Andrew Chaplin. He is a Hunziker realtor, does a great job, and he's helping Cyclones all over our great state. Kelderman Manufacturing as well, kelderman.com. Check them out. As always, they are this amazing Cyclones. Mark Steck from Kelderman, he was one of those sickos who went to the game last night and drove back. A lot of Iowa State fans did that. Matt Beatty did that.
Yep.
I met a gentleman. There were a lot of crazies who did that last night. That's insane to me, but shout out to you.
Yeah, for all y'all that made that trip, man, kudos.
It was fun. I will say it didn't end well, but Friday night was fun. I randomly I went to meet our friend Rob Gray and some of his family members. I had just got done working, and I went to meet them for dinner. And it was randomly where the Alumni Association or something was getting together. And I met great Cyclone Brent,
not me,
lawyer. He was texting you or whatever.
Yeah,
we flipped
my
you
guy
off.
in KC. Yeah,
yeah.
You
Great
guys sent
dude.
me. You sent me the bird picture.
Yeah. Well, when in Rome. No, I meant all these cool Cyclone fans who it was a different crowd. Because you go to a lot of these games and it's a lot of the same people who travel and we become friends over the years. And I met Brent and Becky who listens to all of our pods.
Yep,
I met all these cool people.
Cool. Yeah.
Really, really fun. So
and the neat thing is, C-Dub, next Iowa State football or basketball game will be in Ireland. See a lot of those same folks over there.
Yeah. No, it was a good trip to Milwaukee. Also, real quick, I do want to really hammer this for our friends at the foundation, the Iowa State University Foundation. Forever True Day is coming up, okay? And I'm going to ask, I just want to make sure that I get the date right. It is April 2nd and 3rd, okay?
Ooh,
so that is coming
closing
up.
in. We're closing
April
in.
2nd and 3rd. I am going to give a link, and we're going to see if we can beat what we did last year, raising money for the Iowa State University Foundation for Forever True Day. And so load it up. I always give to the band. I'm going to give to the science deal, Clover Science Deal this year.
Yeah, Science Bound.
Science Bound, I'm going to give to them. Fired up.
I got something cooking for the band for Forever True Day, by the way.
Yes.
I got a little
Oh, by the way,
a little something.
The Ole Miss basketball team was better, but their band sucks. Our band was so much better than the Ole Miss band. It was incredible, the difference.
Well,
I'm not kidding.
Iowa State band electric. Take that, Ole Miss. No, we got something cooking with the band director for Forever True Day with a little NIL thing going. Yeah, it's
Cool.
pretty cool. Yeah.
Cool. So let's talk about big picture.
Yeah.
Because one of the things I wanted to talk about, and the portal is open.
It is cooking.
Where do freshmen fit in college basketball?
It's a great question, and that's exactly where my mind goes to. It's fascinating because I don't know. You had Rick Pitino come out 2 weeks ago, and he said, we're not going to recruit freshmen anymore. Said it. We're just not. Because we're going to spend our money, and they're in a unique situation, don't have a football team, right? And obviously well supported, and they're going to get known commodities. And for freshmen anymore, unless you're Cooper Flagg or the DeBonsta kid that's going to go to BYU, who are lock and load. But even, we've seen it at Iowa State. We thought we had a couple surefire, literally a McDonald's All-American that didn't even play as a freshman.
2 years in a row now.
And he didn't play at Wake Forest either, by the way.
Yeah.
So it's hard. And you think you're getting instant impact guys, but you don't know for sure. So but the other side of that coin is, going to be honest with everybody, they are the money ball play now because they are a fifth of the cost. A fifth. So if you're budgeting, you got to make the pieces all fit together.
It's like if you got a DraftKings NASCAR roster. Yeah. You want to take a couple of those $5,000 guys that are going to get in the top 20, right?
But the hard part is you don't know. Like, I could see people say, well, why didn't, Noyes didn't play? And you're like, yeah, you're right. And I wish he did, or at least he had more of an impact. But Milan did and had a huge impact as a freshman. Taman had a huge impact as a freshman. Tyrese Hunter under TJ, whether we like the name or not, was the freshman of the year in the Big 12 and had a monster impact. Led Iowa State to a Sweet 16. But you don't know yet. And Iowa State is not for everybody. And so therein lies the big question of Iowa State needs to hit on those guys, a much higher hit rate than this year, because we don't have the capacity to just overspend on role players, essentially. Like, quite candidly, Mississippi does. Mississippi is one of the most well-funded NIL programs in the country. Look it up. And they basically went out and bought 8 guys this past offseason. Look where they all came from, like Belmont, and they came from all over the place. Well, Iowa State can't afford to do that, literally. And so you need to hit on those freshmen, but it's harder and harder. I do think it's going to change a little bit. C-Dub, here's why. We're aging out, finally, of the COVID year. So we're getting a year younger next year. Everybody is. Because those guys are now out, pretty much. Now there's a couple JUCO guys that'll hang on. But you're going to get younger. I think next year you will see a rise in the impact of freshmen nationwide, because you're getting a year younger across the board. But it's a great question, and there are some teams that are completely going to punt on freshmen because they'd rather get a known commodity from a mid-major and pay them accordingly. But the market is a fifth. It's a fifth. Literally, it's a fifth of the cost.
It's fascinating to me as a guy who's covered recruiting for as long as I have, specifically on the basketball side. It's always been whatever. I can tell you, like, for people's interest in Iowa State athletics, nothing other than like a big game moves the needle like basketball recruiting. It's always been that way. And I don't think it's like, oh, they like basketball more than football. It's just there were so many guys in football. Like, basketball is always easy to follow. It's like, you got 2 spots this year. Who are you going to get? Oh, we need a post and we need a point guard. Going after this guy. Oh, he's got us in his top 6. Like,
quite honestly, it's a lot easier to analyze basketball stuff on YouTube.
So, but now, like, it really is interesting, the lack of interest even in these high school guys, because it's all about the portal. Unfortunately, we lost a bunch of subscribers after the game last night, because that tends to happen after losses, which I don't understand what we have to do with anything, but we're just whatever.
Yep. And we honestly, C-Dub, I had a couple cancellations.
But then we gained a bunch today because everybody wants to know about the portal, which, by the way, we've been reporting on for about 24 hours. So, but I got to thinking, I'm like, I'm going to ask Brent that tonight. Like, what is the role of these? Now, I do think this kid from out east is going to be pretty good. I think he could come in and play.
Well, I'll be honest. And again, this is right. It's March 24th.
Yeah.
The plan is that Bateman, the kid from Milwaukee, their plan is for him to play. Same with Traore. Both those guys.
Traore is the one I butchers.
But again,
and then the big kid's probably going to have to.
Well,
that's tough for him.
The German kid's going to play too. German kid's really good. Plata,
yeah.
Yeah, but he's 21. Like it's not quite the same.
Yeah, he's not a freshman. Yeah.
They're high on these guys. But again, it's hard. I get it as a fan. Like, well, what does that mean? Because we don't know yet. And then quite
you
frankly,
really don't know until they go through this damn summer practice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The kid from New York this year gets into town, goes through a week of the summer workouts, and he's like, "This is not for me," and he bounced. So the hard part here is, it's two-pronged. One, there's the financial piece, which is, some of these schools would just rather pay older guys because they're more ready-made and productive. But the second part of that is nobody's patient anymore either. On either side. Yeah,
like, the players aren't and the programs aren't.
You can't be. Like, gone are the days where Naslong is going to sit for 3 years and not play. Like, it's not going to happen anymore.
Which is JT Rock's in the portal.
He is. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised 2 years down the road if JT Rock comes back to Iowa State. I wouldn't. Like,
go somewhere and play.
That's exactly what's 100%. Yeah. Like,
get your reps.
These guys know that in order to make the really big dollars, you got to go play and produce somewhere. And he will end up, 100%, he will end up in a powerful program in 2 years. He will.
Kind of like this Clough kid from Washington State. Absolutely. What he did. Drops down a level, averages 17 and 13 for Hendo at South Dakota State, and now he's going to be one of the top portal prospects in the country.
And Iowa State, honestly, is right there with him.
Yep.
And that's exactly right. And so nobody's patient anymore because you can't be, because like the Iowa thing is a good example right now. The Iowa fans will want Ben McCollum to win next year because they can look at, look how quickly TJ turned it around in a year with the portal. Look at that program turn it around in 1 year. Look what he did at Drake in 1 year. So you want to upgrade all the time, and so you're not going to wait for a guy to develop either because you need a guy that can play. And so it's a really hard situation of, it's nobody's fault. Everybody's looking out for themselves here, coaches included, because the fans aren't going to give them 2 years to build up depth in the program because they're going to want to win right now. Same with your AD. And so, Iowa State has had a lot of portal activity today as expected because, quite frankly, TJ and the team knows they had to upgrade the roster. Like everything we talked about in the first half hour of the show, Iowa State knows that too. They did not have enough capable bodies to compete as they want to. And so Iowa State is going to try and load up with some more capable bodies that can play next year. And then you hope you hit on those freshmen because you still need to do that, C-Dub, because it's so much easier to retain than
Look at Milan. Look at Taman. And you're not getting those guys in the portal.
You are not. And you have to hit on those guys at an Iowa State. You have to. You cannot afford not to take freshmen. But like a Creighton, a St. John's, a Villanova, some of those schools are just going to load up in the portal now and not worry about freshmen because they can. And so the money ball play now, the efficiency play for Iowa State is to go the freshman route, hit on a couple of these guys, and then keep them. And that's what Iowa State's hoping for those guys coming in.
I'm glad we had this conversation.
It's flipped now.
Well, Pitino said that, and I think a lot of people thought, well, why don't we do that? And the Moneyball thing is a great way to put it.
Listen, if TJ had his druthers and he had $12 million to spend like some schools are going to spend, honestly, in the portal this year, yeah, he would too. He would load up in the portal. We just don't have it. Like I'm not trying to this isn't a plea for more because it is what it is. But you have to play with the cards you are dealt. And Iowa State still has to do the freshman thing. But what can't happen is you can't miss. Because then you don't have a bench, and that's what happened this year.
Well, yeah, and
the injury again.
Yeah,
injuries.
That's the thing.
I don't want to throw everybody under the bus. That's not what I meant.
I think if you have a relatively healthy year, it probably doesn't get to it.
Correct.
But the problem is, it's hard to stay healthy all the time, and yeah, I don't know how else to put it. Like the other thing too. I mean, okay, so guys are in the portal. It's about 8:30 when we started doing this show. We're not doing it live. A lot of guys going in the portal.
Yep.
None of these are surprise. All the guys who are
the one that surprised some people is Jackson,
Correct.
Deshaun Jackson. But I mean,
And he's an interesting case. So let me, from what I understand, and then you correct me where I'm wrong. Massive dude who could probably earn more on the open market than Iowa State was willing to pay him.
100%.
That's the way to put
exactly what it is, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Deshaun. Like, huge fan.
Big dog.
Great dude.
One of the presidents, man. Maybe the greatest shirt we've ever made.
Yeah, and he's neat kid. Was super grateful for being at Iowa State. Like he really, like I'm not going to talk negatively about that guy at all. But you nailed it. This is his last year to really make meaningful dollars, and like he will get meaningful dollars, right? Like he will probably get double or triple what Iowa State had in the budget for him. You can't blame the kid.
So from what I understood, if he would have been like, yeah, I'll take this amount, they would have kept him.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think,
right? But he's going to go and maximize his earning potential.
I'm not being hyperbolic here. A guy like Deshaun did 8-5 in the Big 12, which is, on the face is pretty good. Like
in 19 minutes a game.
Yeah, and is massive. You can't teach that. He's going to get. It won't be $1 million. I don't think he's not going to be all the way there. There are going to be probably $25-30 million guys in the portal this year, though. By the way, but he's going to get close. He'll get close. You cannot teach 6'11", but I think Iowa State is looking at it of they needed a different type of skill set next to Jefferson. I think Iowa State, rim protector type, but more of a what Iowa State wants to do next year. And I think it's super smart. Is I think they kind of want to give the keys to Joshua in a lot of ways of letting him be more creative. And by the way, he said he's 100% coming back, and that is the biggest win of our offseason, going to be honest. But you give him a little bit more of the keys to the car, and then you get again, Deshaun's a traditional post, but he wasn't reliable enough in the low post to really, make opponents pay one-on-one in there. He was good at times, but I think Iowa State really wants that, traditional big, and then if possible, get a rim runner running, Hassan Ward type. But again, those are guys that are going to be really hard to find and are expensive. But I just think Iowa State wants somebody different to match up there because Jefferson's kind of the key to the whole operation next year. And Iowa State wants to run some high-low stuff with him, and I think he can be really good. I think we are on the you said it on your podcast this morning. I think he has first team All Big 12 next year written all over him, Joshua.
Yeah, and I talked to him. If you guys didn't get to see it, go watch my interview with him. It's on YouTube from the locker room last night. I don't think a lot of fans fully realize that he didn't participate in off season because of his knee injury. So what you saw from him this year was not. He didn't really max out, and there's a reason why he really stuttered there. I thought at the middle of the year it was conditioning. It was all. The hope is that give him a full off season, and that guy can be even better. He didn't
start playing basketball like August 1.
Yeah,
last year. Honestly, Suit-Up, if he wasn't hurt in the portal a year ago at this time, there's no way we get him. Like, you want to talk about trying to the Moneyball play is Iowa State took a chance on him because they knew he was injured, and it wasn't a sure thing he was going to be 100% healthy. But look what Iowa State got now. And the great thing is with Taman, Milan, Joshua, and Nate, you have an awesome core to build around. And then it's just trying to find the right mix and match. And, it's always kind of a roll of the dice. Iowa State did not know exactly. When Iowa State picked up Jackson last year, it didn't know it was going to get Jefferson. I mean, this is kind of the thing is like, now it knows what it has in Jefferson. Now you find a more complementary piece to pair with him next year. And they would have taken Deshaun back, absolutely, but not at what he can get on the open market. Just be transparent.
Yeah. So Fish is in the portal.
Rock
is in the portal.
Watson.
And Watson is in the portal. We're fully expecting Andrusaitis to be in the portal. It hasn't happened yet as of this recording. Probably will by the time we're done. Where do we see these guys dropping to? I don't want to spend too much time on it. I think Noyes would be the most interesting one, but like Watson's is fascinating because the fans, I've never been asked about a player other than Omaha Blue more than Demarion Watson.
I don't know with him. I don't know.
Do you think he's like just drops to a mid-major and tries to be the man somewhere? Like, where do you? Because I do think fans will want to follow him.
I think the comp for him, honestly, is like a Tristan and Aruna. I remember Tristan.
Go down to Cleveland State and be really good.
Just be really good. And then what he needs, again, I think the world of all these guys, like from a personal standpoint, like awesome dudes. Like I want the best for them.
So it makes nights like last night so hard for a guy like you.
Yeah, it's just like them and their families, and I want them all to do well. But I think Demary needs to go somewhere he can shoot. Let him play. And it wasn't going to be. It's not going to be at a Power 4 level. It just won't be. Now somebody will see his profile and his block rate and his rebound rate and might take a chance on him, thinking, oh well, if we could teach him how to shoot. So he'll get offers, I would say, to go to the Power 4, but I think for his long-term development, and if he just wants to enjoy college and not worry about the finances, then I think going down to Missouri Valley type of Cleveland
go to a
State
really
type,
good school where you can win and be the man and like try and
he just needs he's a guy that to unlock his potential, because it's there, it really is. He just needs to shoot it 10 times a game, and he's just not going to at the Power 4 level.
Yeah. Fish will go down.
Fish will go down.
I think if I'm JT Rock's agent, I don't know if he has an agent, go play for Eric Henderson at South Dakota State and be all Summit League.
I'm telling you guys,
what I would do.
we have not seen the last of JT Rock. He will play at the Power 4 level at some point. I 100% believe that.
I mean, go back to the Summit League where you're from for a year, kick ass in that league, and then go cash some checks, big guy.
Yeah,
That's
and again,
what I'd do.
I like JT a lot, so I'm rooting for him. And I think Noyes is interesting because he's still a top 50 kid. Somebody will probably take a roll of the dice on him. He needs to decide on his end, what does he want to be? Does he want to just shoot it 20 times? If so, then drop down. Because there's two sides of the ball here, and I think that's if people want, why didn't he play? Well, you got a guard on the other end, and it just never quite clicked for him on that end. And TJ, call him stubborn or not, but he will not play you if he doesn't trust you. And I think that was just a simple trust situation.
Yeah, and again, you're right. People can criticize the head coach. He makes a lot of money. It's part of the deal. Playing Cade Kelderman in the NCAA tournament and the way that he did, if that doesn't prove to you he's going to play the guys who work the hardest. And I mean, criticize them all you want, but that's also why they were able to get to a Sweet 16 in year one. Like it and maybe to get to like a different level, he's going to have to switch things up in some I don't know.
Maybe.
But
maybe
the proof is there. I mean, this is 4 NCAA tournaments in 4 years. I mean, I was just disappointed because I wanted the 3 Sweet 16s in 4 years, because that would have been a great thing for Iowa State basketball. I mean, it's still a great. It's still like the foundation's as good as it ever has been, especially when you look at what's coming back. The Indrusitis is the last one. He's going to have a good career.
I think
somewhere.
he will put up numbers. Again, it's for him. He just if he wants to make it to the NBA, and I think it's still possible with him. I've seen him enough that he's got he's a good player. He really is. He's got to do all the hard stuff. This isn't high school anymore. Like, you got to do the hard stuff and be willing to do the hard stuff. I think it's an interesting conversation. One guy that we forget about kind of in the history of Iowa State, but a good example that you made, TJ's first 2 months at Iowa State, remember, he removed Xavier Foster and Blake Hinson. Interestingly, that was the wake-up call for Hinson. And he went on and
had a great career.
Had a great career at Pitt.
Yeah.
Foster did not, and he's disappeared, basically. So
isn't that wild, the Ballou and Foster? No, and hopefully Omaha, he's still got time.
He's got time, but he got hurt again this year. But I think the point is TJ's been consistent all along here. Now, you could go the other end of the spectrum. And oftentimes what I'd characterize as the Prom and Wayne Morgan era type of doing things, where you and honestly Fred to an extent, where you kind of just, guys can do whatever they want and they're still going to play. And like, honestly, guys, there were times where Jameel McKay would just kind of like show up on game day and like, oh, well, I guess he's good to go now. He like just missed practice. But TJ has a standard, and it has led to some of these really hard decisions.
Him and Promer just like arm wrestling that whole year.
Oh my gosh, there's a lot, but that's the thing is like
Or Jamil, like you go from Fred that was just complete laissez-faire, like, and then Steve.
Steve had no idea what to do with that guy.
Well, and when Steve first came in, and Steve, to his credit, he changed a lot in that first month.
He tried.
Like that first month, from what Niang and those guys have told me, like Steve came in and it's like no rap music and you got to pray and he got off of that really fast. But it was a total culture shock from that NBA locker room that those guys had with Hoiberg.
Well, and ultimately, maybe it was to Prome's detriment because he lost. I don't want to say he lost. He didn't lose control, but the last couple of teams.
He did at the end.
The last couple of teams, there wasn't a standard, and guys kind of did whatever the heck
it was
they
the
wanted.
old Paul Rhodes. Don't let too many jackasses in, or you're going to have a jackass farm. They had a jackass farm.
And that's where, that's the hard part. If you let some things go, then what else gets let go? And I think, TJ's learning too. He's still a young coach, and I think he'll learn from this year as well.
I hope so. I mean, I tell you what, the guy, if you think that, I understand, every coach is stubborn to an extent, right?
Yeah.
Like every single one of them are.
Well, these guys are competitive too.
Yeah.
You don't get to this level unless
But you also don't get to this level unless you're always trying to get better. And that's every coach I've ever, it's from Steve Prohm to they're all obsessed with winning, and sometimes you do make the wrong decision. Like sometimes it's like, I should have handled that differently. And it's like, do you learn from it and do you grow from it? The one thing I can tell you about this staff, and you know this more than me, is when they make a decision, they pull the trigger and they go. And they don't screw around. That's why Keyshawn wasn't in Milwaukee probably, right? It's like, okay, we're making this decision. You go work on your body. We're moving forward without you.
And here's why you do that. It's not just, again, in the short term, probably cost Iowa State, honestly, the Gilbert thing. Again, his health, he wasn't healthy anyway, but basketball-wise, you could have really used a healthy Gilbert against Mississippi. There's no question. However, if you start taking shortcuts and allowing some things to just go by, the damage is done in the future. And so I think it was, to that point, you're right. If he makes a decision, it's all in on that decision. And because of that, those that do the right things and that do stick around will earn more going forward. And it's also, Chris, that same reason is why those 4 are going to be around next year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a perfect way to tie this up. Yeah.
I mean, they know that guy is going to do what's right for our team and for me because I'm doing the right things. If you let everything slide, then that's where things can get sideways. And
I also think, too, on that note, the book needs to be, or not the book, the record needs to be set on Taman Lipsey's unselfishness, too.
Oh, my gosh.
This guy, he's probably not going to be able to walk by the time he graduates. I'm obviously hyperbolic there, but if you factor in the amount of just unselfish things he's done for this program over the last 3 years, from all the hell he went through that first year. I mean, he wasn't even supposed
to play.
Yeah, and
he's
he
coming
got
off
better
an ACL.
from it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. But then, really, this year, completely sacrificed his own stats,
100%.
Especially early on.
He was first team All Big 12 last year.
Yeah,
I think people forget that.
Yeah, and he completely, I'll do this. It's best for the team. For really to move over for Kurt and Keyshawn.
Yep.
And the Keyshawn thing, I think that story will tell itself someday when we all know more. And there's clearly, I think, more to it than just the guy pulled his groin. But it's not like this whole idea that it's disciplinary and they kicked him off. None of that's true. It's not true.
I wanted to thank you for bringing this up. I wanted to address this real quick because I saw some stuff out there, and again, it's the internet. I get it. People like to fill the void, But there was a thing that, Keyshawn demanded more NIL and wasn't going to play in the tournament because that not true. Keyshawn,
not true.
Nor anybody associated with Keyshawn talked to me about any NIL related thing. It's not true. In fact, Keyshawn sent me a text on Thursday or Wednesday, and he basically said, "Hey, thanks for sticking up for me on the podcast, because some of these crazy people are really bothering me," and I felt bad for him. I don't say that because Keyshawn's going through a rough time. I mean, I think he was just clearly he deactivated his social media stuff.
Kind of heartbreaking.
It
really.
is. So I'm a Keyshawn guy.
And then
should he be listening to this? I don't know. Maybe not the best thing to be doing. However, these guys see stuff, and Chris, like Deshaun Jackson had a tweet this afternoon, and he said grateful for this year, even with all the hate. And it's like, man, it just breaks my heart.
Jefferson put the same thing on his Instagram.
And it's like
last night he had an Instagram story. Is like, despite all of you haters, we had a great season.
Yeah,
it's just man.
And I know it's not the majority, but the fact is, and I know some people say, well, every fan base
it's not the majority. It's the overwhelming minority, but they're the loudest idiots.
And it honestly, guys, it had an impact this year on some of this stuff.
I think it impacted Heisey early, and he fought through it, and he's going to be a much better player for it. Totally,
but the great thing with expectations is people have expectations. The bad thing about expectations is when you don't meet them, people can be ruthless. And I get it. These guys are getting compensated now. Fans are invested more than any other way. But I do think that the weight of that expectations when things weren't going so well definitely had an impact on everybody in that locker room.
Yeah, this is what I tweeted. Normally I'll do like a really big column at the end of the year. I didn't really have the words to do that last night, and this is what I left with, and I just wanted to see what you thought about it. Is you're a better historian on all this than I would. I said I'll have more words on the season in the coming days, but I leave Milwaukee thinking this: from the program itself to the fans in the stands, just getting to the NCAA tournament and winning a game or two is no longer the goal/expectation at Iowa State.
True.
The end stings, but one can make an argument that the foundation of Iowa State basketball has never been better. And I felt I've been in a lot of these locker rooms. I mean, every one of them since 2004, when the season has ended. I've been there, and most of the time, not every time, but most of the time, you felt like, that maxed out. Like they, right? Like that.
There was still a sense of pride that, hey, look what we did. Yeah,
I didn't feel that last night.
Yeah, totally.
It felt different to me, and I sensed it from. I didn't even think that the players were sad. I think they were pissed. Like it just. And even like people around the program, it was like they were proud of what they accomplished. They were proud that they left it all out there. They made a great comeback and got hot at right. They didn't quit in that game. None of that. But I do think that comes from TJ at the first, where it's like, I'll go back to that BYU game at the Big 12, where they're trotting Kelderman out there and like you're down two guards. They didn't have any business scoring 92 points in that game or whatever the hell it ended up with. But there's this aura within them that, no, we expect to win every game. And when we don't, we're pissed off about it. And I could see why. I could see it in that locker room last night at the end, where they were pissed about how the last 2 months went. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't like, there were tears. Like, of course there were. There's always tears at the end. Those guys want it more than any of us do. But like it felt different, where it's just like, all right, like this isn't acceptable for us to lose in the round of 32. And I that was my big takeaway.
I think the fan base would echo that, and it's to where Iowa State is as a program, but also, man, it's hard. It makes things really hard, because when the goal is Elite Eight or not,
Here, it's tough.
It's
not a lot of
hard.
teams. There's
Yeah.
350 teams or
So I'm
whatever.
glad. Like I'd rather have that than the alternative where you're just
Absolutely.
like you're just elated to make the tournament. But at the same time, man, that the weight of that pressure.
Especially this sport where everything is dictated by this kind of random 64 team, like where weird shit happens and like
like Merle hitting 3 threes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, okay, it's hard. I mean, that's the hard part with it. It's a tough way to determine the best team, but unfortunately, it is how it's determined, and you're judged by that. And so you're right. I think this year more than maybe any other. The UAB game was just a shocker. Like that was just a shock. The Hampton game was just a shocker. This wasn't a shocker. This was Iowa State got beat, and I think this was a culmination of the last 2 months where expectations and everything else just kind of was just weighed on everybody. And the good thing with the staff is though, C-Dub, I was on the phone with one of them at 6:30 this morning. Like they're at it. Like they're not feeling sorry for themselves. Like we got to get better. We got to get better. We all know we need to get better, and let's get after it. And so the great thing with the NIL era and the portal era
makes you feel any better. I got a call from one of them at about 2 a.m. and he was already like moving in the.
We're not sleeping here. Like they know that was not acceptable to them and anybody there. So that's but also it's a really hard precedent if it's Elite Eight or bust. But I mean that's what you get when you want to be a top dog. I mean, there's a reason John Calipari got run out of Kentucky.
Well,
right?
and you also think of it this way: all the injuries, right? And this was one of the most banged up teams in college basketball this year. And you were in the top 10 for 95% of the season.
Yeah.
And like, isn't that interesting though that like we're sitting here calling this a disappointing year when that's the reality?
Yeah. I think you said it great. It was a disappointing ending, but yet I've never felt better about the long-term future of the Iowa State basketball program. And,
I agree.
And so the question on our end, because we get it. I've heard it already. It's like, oh, Williams and Blum are going to overhype the team again next year. It's like, well, the expectation can be really high for that team next year. They are.
Mm-hmm.
And
what
now,
do you want us to do? Just tell you they're going to suck? Okay.
Well, I mean, and it's not even about
and
that.
if they are going to suck, we'll tell you they're going to suck. But
I guess
we don't think that's going to be the case.
Where I was going is this team will learn from the expectations this year because they're going to have the same expectations next year. I really believe that. I think this team will be top 10 again in the preseason, and they will learn from this. Again, everything is a learning opportunity to get better, and I think as a fan base, we'll see what it's like. Iowa State needs to grow its fan base, and when you grow the fan base, you're going to get more casuals who don't know the history of Iowa State, and so they just know the last 5 years.
The best thing that you could do, because again, the overwhelming majority of people are great, is call that person an idiot if they're doing it and call them out. And and the players need to continuously be educated to just stay the hell off of that
100%.
stuff. Right? Like it all works together.
And I think that's why this year was a learning experience is the best way. Iowa State has not had this expectation really since that Niang Prom team. And you can't be the plucky underdog anymore when you're in the top 10 all year.
No,
and it just changes. It just changes things.
We saw that, man, like when they went into West Virginia this year and like, and the DeVries Otzelberger thing and like that was a thing. Like
you
were circled every time.
The comp is that Brock Purdy, Breece Hall football team.
Yeah.
That team struggled with expectations sometimes because like we're here. Everyone expects us to get even better, but we can't quite find it. And it gets really hard on everybody. And I think, honestly, the root of a lot of the stuff that happened, the injuries, included, was there's just a different expectation level for everybody. And you can use that to motivation, or sometimes it can overwhelm you. And I think sometimes it worked against Iowa State this year.
Well, I think this was a very productive podcast, Brent.
Well,
I felt like it was.
Yeah.
I'm glad we did it tonight and not last week.
Yeah, I agree. I just want to thank everybody. Like I am super appreciative of Cyclone fans because without you all, like you make this whole thing go. We can talk about all the basketball, the X's and O's,
right.
the expectations, but the reason why Iowa State's even in this standpoint is because all of you, and it's been so fun I know you agree with me, C-Dub, like you talked about, seeing everybody, in Milwaukee, in Kansas City, all that stuff. And we can kind of get caught up in the negativity. And you and I talk about it all the time. Oh, who's going to ask us about De'Aaron Watson this week?
It's a joke. People, yeah.
I know, but it's also it's
because people care.
People care, and you guys, that's pretty unique to Iowa State in a lot of ways, and that's why we come across and say, hey, man, these guys feel it. They feel it on the good side too, and they feel it on the good side too, and then I think that's the key here.
Yeah, they're for the most part pretty smart guys who understand that they know what a burner is on the internet.
Yeah, and
they're not idiots.
I really think Iowa State athletics, and again next year, and again this is kind of the wrap up for obviously there's the spring sports and everything, but I think the expectations again for football and then men's and women's basketball will be maybe not as high, but it's going to be pretty high. Iowa State's going to start in the top 20 in football. Iowa State's going to start in the top 10 for men's basketball. Women's basketball, we'll see. I think I like Iowa State's chances of keeping Brown and Crooks, by the way, so that's good. But
keep those two, and then the core. I mean, you're going to have a they had a pretty good tournament. I thought to get out of that game the way that they did. They didn't beat Michigan, but they showed that they belong. Right,
and a really helpful learning experience for them all year, like that. They learned a lot about what they need to do in the portal, quite honestly. But I just think, as a fan base, we're at points we've never been before. And, we're all to have our own way of coping with that when things don't end the right way. And I think we saw that after the Big 12 championship game in football. And we saw it again, and that's okay. That's okay. And that's not going to go perfectly all the time. But where I keep coming back to is, man, the journey along the way has still been pretty cool. And the fact that we can all do this and have these expectations is worth something. And now it's on the coaches and players to learn from it and make next year even better.
Well, I hope everybody enjoyed it. We certainly had a busy year. We expanded our coverage. It was a massive overtaking to do all the pre and post game shows for men's and women's basketball. I want to thank Leah Nelson and Chelsea Poppins, and Aiden's really the guy who gets the majority of the credit for getting all that stuff produced all the time. Of course, Rob Gray is a huge part of it. Connor Ferguson filled in some. Jake Brand helped out some, and it's a big overtaking. It's funny because I was talking with Alex Bussey from 247, and he's a puppy. But I was explaining to him back in the day that when I was doing the fan site thing over for the networks, that like basketball it in, and it was just like, oh, we'll do spring football, and then it was just like you go into hibernation.
I remember that.
And then literally, it's funny. I had a friend ask me today, so you're pretty much done for a while, right? And I'm like, no, like the next 3 weeks are insane, like absolutely batshit crazy. The next 3 weeks. It does make it more fun though. Because it's like, oh, you're already roster building for next year. Let's go.
I was up in Ames this afternoon and ran into Big Dom Orange. They start practice
how's
tomorrow.
Dom?
He's looking good, looking trim. So they're pumped up.
Big citrus.
But anyway, it's good. I just, football's right around the corner. So as one football coach sent me a text early this morning, he said, guess what? And I said, what? He's like, it's football season, baby. So, always on to the next one.
I need to get up there because, I'm not in this. I'm not a spring football guy anymore. I know it's important. I just we don't ever get to see any of it, and then that calamity of a spring game, and then now they're not even having one. It's just hard to get into. But I get it.
I know we've gone long enough here, but Chris, thank you for I know
you too, buddy.
We a lot of times we obviously do a lot of stuff together, but it's this ride is even more fun for me just to have a best friend like you around. So
I couldn't.
We'll keep grinding. We'll keep grinding, and I thank everybody for listening. I really do. It's the best part.
The Sunday pod is therapy.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
So I know we do get sponsors, and so there is a little compensation here. But man, this for me means a lot. So I appreciate everyone for listening and continuing to listen, and we'll keep plugging away.
Yeah. No, it's all love. It's all good. And we do love it. When you guys come up and introduce yourselves and say that you listen and what your username is, all that good stuff. We appreciate it. All right, buddy. Well, you get to work. This is your time to shine.
I
Damn
got my
it.
phone on there right
This
now.
is your time to shine. He is Brent Blum. My name is Chris Williams. Thanks for watching on YouTube. Thanks for listening wherever you get your podcast. We appreciate our presenting sponsor, Mechdyne, so much as well. For Bloom, I'm Williams. We'll be back on Wednesday. I'm sure it's going to be an eventful one.